Good morning, I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and it's time for another Music Month video. And if you don't know what that is, it's when I choose 5 songs and 1 album that I feel represent a certain theme or mood or genre and just talk about them a little bit. And for this month's theme, I thought I would choose... This is terrible. I don't know, snowy music. It's not even really a thing, is it? Basically, I was struggling to think of an interesting theme or idea to do this video on. And for those of you who are in the UK with me will know that there's this beast from the east, which is a giant blizzardy snowstorm that's taking over the world, basically.
The snow is fucking horizontal.
And that has now hit Cardiff on Thursday the 1st of March. And it's really weird, because the problem with Cardiff is that it's really low down and it's very close to the coast. So even when there's snow over the rest of the country, Cardiff just gets a little bit of sleet and then just the same grey weather that it has pretty much all year round. So I'm quite enjoying the fact that it's like massively snowy at the moment. But yeah, so the theme for this month is like snowy music, or like wintry music would probably be more appropriate. I'm not really sure. There are like 2 different categories that the tracks will fall into for this month's video. One of which will be songs that just for some reason are actually literally about winter, or they're called something to do with, you know, winter or snow or whatever. And the other ones will be ones that I just have quite a strong memory attached to, and I discovered them during winter, because you know, whenever you hear a song and you have a sort of nostalgic attachment to a song, you associate that with various different things, but one of the biggest ones I always find is the kind of the season. So there are songs that just, I hear the first few notes and it's like I'm back in the summer of like 2013. So without any further ado, the first track on this list is definitely in the category of music that I just used to listen to during winter. It's by the wonderful Ray Morris and it's called Grow. Released in 2012, this was the first Ray Morris song that I ever heard, and I loved it as soon as it started. If you don't know who Ray Morris is, she's this fantastic singer-songwriter from Blackpool, I think. It's up north, basically. I was actually introduced to her by a very good friend of mine who had met her a couple of times in the past, because I think he said that he had done some gigs with her when she was like just starting out and just doing sort of like small open mic nights and whatnot. And I actually saw her live at the Village Underground in London, which is where I was introduced to Paul Thomas Saunders as well. That was a nice little musical moment for me. Anyway, yeah, Ray Morris, she's now a lot more popular, and I'm not personally a huge fan of the most recent releases she's done. Everything after Unguarded, I can remember just... Not that it was bad, I just wasn't as into it as I was the other stuff, but I haven't listened to her most recent album all the way through yet. I really need to do that. Anyway, Grow. The thing that captivated me so much about that song when I first heard it was simply the production on it. The piano tone is really cool and really interesting. It almost sounds a little bit like a sort of honky-tonk, out-of-tune pub piano, but it also doesn't at the same time, because it sounds good. I don't know, maybe they used the sample library Death Piano for it, because that's got loads of weird sort of crazy, slightly broken sounding piano samples on it. But yeah, the piano, I can just remember thinking this sounds really cool, and she's got a lovely voice, and it's a very somber, sad song, which she's now moved away from, and it's all a bit more upbeat. Not that that's a bad thing, but yeah, that's track number 1 on the list is Grow by Ray Morris. Track number 2 is by Adam Young, of all people. It's called Frigid Airport Lounge, taken from the Arctic album that he did under the side project named Port Blue. Port Blue is one of my favourite of his side projects, and the Arctic album I always found really interesting. It's like just super minimal, basically. A lot of it is very minimal, and sometimes that sounds really well done and kind of intentional, and other times it sounds minimal because he may well have only just been like learning how to use some of the software, and you know, there are presets that you can hear and stuff in there. But I don't know, I kind of like that. But yeah, Frigid Airport Lounge, I like how it starts with this sort of phone ringing and then a voice comes in, and then there's just this synth line that repeats throughout most of it, and I just think it just sounds really nice. It's just done really well. And I can remember when I was like 16 or whatever, and I was like a big fanboy of Adam Young's, reading all of these interviews about it, and I think he said Port Blue was the music that played in elevators and airports in his imagination, or in his dreams, which I thought was a very good way of articulating an ambience, or like an idea. And that was one of the tracks that I listened to, and I was like, I can really hear that sort of idea coming through in that track. I just thought it worked really well. And yeah, just listen to Frigid Airport Lounge by Port Blue. It's great. The third track on this list is by an artist called The Japanese House and is called Pools to Bathe In, taken from the EP of the same name. I'm sure I've said this before, but I was introduced to The Japanese House when I saw the 1975 live. Japanese House was the support act, and at the time I didn't really get into them that much. I felt like the huge arena setting didn't serve her music very well or effectively, and then when I got home I listened to it on headphones by myself. I really liked it, and that EP was the first of hers that I downloaded, and it was when I was on a coach or a train or something going back to London for Christmas that I listened to this for the first time, and I just loved it. So I have very strong associations of that song and the Christmas of my third year of university. I can also remember when I got to London, my mum made me go to Brent Cross and get more fairy lights because some of them had died, and I just had that EP like on repeat with my headphones for like 3 hours trying to navigate through like the atrocity that is Brent Cross at Christmas time. Track number 4, very winter related, from an absolutely magnificent film, and it's a magnificent piece of music just by itself. It's called Ice Dance, from Danny Elfman's score to Edward Scissorhands. If you've seen Edward Scissorhands, then I don't really need to explain to you why I'm putting that piece of music on this list, and if you haven't seen Edward Scissorhands, then stop watching me immediately and go and fucking watch Edward Scissorhands, because it's an amazing film. Definitely one of my favourite scores, and that scene, the ice dance when he's out there carving the angel and Winona Ryder in all her beauty comes out and starts dancing, and it's just, yeah, Winona Ryder is the one. And finally, track number 5 on this list is called A Lack of Colour, from Death Cab for Cutie's album Transatlanticism. Probably my favourite Death Cab album, and this is the final piece of music on there after this amazing journey that album takes you on in general. And I just discovered that song when I was at school, and it was winter, and something about the sound of the ambient wind sounds that they have at the beginning. It sounds kind of wintry, and it's got that Death Cab for Cutie charm of being kind of really bleak, but also somehow kind of upbeat at the same time in areas. I just think it's a wonderful song, and I listen to it fairly regularly, but it's definitely something that whenever I hear those first guitar chords come in, it just makes me think of like when it was frosty and I was walking like to school in the morning in Gloucester, and I was like 17 or whatever. But yeah, so those are the 5 songs. Now the album of the month is something that I feel fits into this category to a degree, in the sense that it could be appropriate winter music, but also I just wanted to kind of give a bit of a tribute to the late Johan Johansson, who unfortunately died a few weeks ago. A fantastic composer, really amazingly beautiful works, and it's amazing the way he was able to make something sound so devastating and tragic but still have this sort of hopeful tone to it. Amazing. If you haven't heard any of Johan Johansson's music, you may have done unknowingly. He scored films like Arrival and The Theory of Everything, which was I think the first of his scores that I heard. Album of the month is going to be Orphée. I hope I'm not doing anyone a disservice by mispronouncing the name of the album. I think it's Orphée, it could be Orphée, but either way, this is absolutely beautiful. I mean, the very first track on their Flight from the City, the second that I heard the first kind of 2 piano chords, I just knew that this was going to be some music that I really liked. And because I am a big fan of Icelandic music in general, especially the kind of Icelandic minimal neoclassical composers. Yeah, it's a beautiful album, and like I said, it's both completely harrowing and heartbreaking, tragic, and yet hopeful and devastatingly beautiful at the same time. So I would just strongly recommend that anyone who hasn't, sit down and listen to this. And I don't mean chuck it on, you know, in the background. You know, if you've got an hour free, just sit down, put Orphée by Johan Johansson on, and just have a listen to it. So there we go, that's this month's Snowy Music Month completed. Let me know what some of the music you're listening to at the moment is, and how you feel about my suggestions. You know, if you like them, you dislike them, or you agree or disagree with any of the things that I've said today, then I would love to know all of that down there in the comments section. And yeah, please let me know what some of your favourite wintry, snowy music is as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you very soon.